Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Friday Night Debate, we're going to be debating President Boakai's new appointments in the Foreign Service. We're going to be debating those appointments, pros and cons. Also, there is a $25 million work-study program in Canada and the USA that the government of Liberia has launched. Last and not the least, the Ombudsman has an order saying no double dipping. If you are party official and also working in the government, you have to take one. So that case went to the Supreme Court, and the justice in chamber had his side of the story. He has an order. We're going to talk about that. I mean, should it take the Supreme Court to tell you that you can double dip as per the code of conduct? Let's find out. Let me welcome from the nation's capital, Mr. Jimmy Eastman. Welcome, Jimmy. Welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here with these astute gentlemen. Looking forward to our conversation.
Let me also welcome FOL political analyst, Mr. J. Victor Nambi. Mr. Nabi, welcome.
Hey, Dennis, thank you very much. Good evening to all. It's good to be here.
Let me also welcome A. Boakai Dukle, who's joining us from Canada. Welcome, Mr. Dukle. I won't talk with the Boakai part.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Let me also welcome FOL senior political analyst, Mr. Mohammed Sharif, who is also a product of Waplo Institute from Kilipo, Kanweken. Welcome, sir.
Yes, Dennis, it's good to be here. Thank you.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. If it is Friday, it's Friday Night Debate right here on Focus on Liberia. Let's get this started, and let's talk about the appointment of President Boakai in the Foreign Service. They are Dr. Al-Hassan Conte, Ambassador Designate United States of America; Genevieve Kennedy, Ambassador Designate United Kingdom; Tiklo Yole, Ambassador Designate France; Edward Appleton, Ambassador Designate Japan; Brahima Kaba, Ambassador Designate Kuwait; Mohammed Kane, Ambassador Designate Qatar, the Americans say Qatar; Ali Salah, Ambassador Designate Senegal; Joseph Johnson, Ambassador Designate Morocco; James Louis, Ambassador Designate Ghana; Louis Brown, aka Retire Suffering, Ambassador Designated Labrador Permanent Mission in New York. I see two UPP people, no, one UP and one Simist, all smiling by the name, mention of the name. Let me get your take on these appointments. I want to, the ones that are causing controversy. Louis Brown, who is coming back to New York, AK Attire Suffering. Talk about Brahima Kamara going back. Kaba, sorry. Brahima Kaba going back. He was ambassador to Senegal around 2012. This time he's going back to Kuwait. People say, hey, Papa, oh, why are you suffering? Yeah. Okay. And then we have Dr. Al-Hassan Conte, who was ambassador in Nigeria. There were big controversy there with some case there. And this guy, we hosted him. He was crying about rape case there. Not that the ambassador did it, but it was like the ambassador was not doing anything about it. Where did that go? He's also been at the university as interim president. We still don't have a president yet. And he's now ambassador. And also, so these are some of the controversy people are talking about. And a whole lot of, we have another young man, Ali Silla, he's going to Senegal and the rest of it. Let me get your take on these appointments, and what's your take, of course. President Boakai was elected on his experience. So some are saying it makes sense for him to bring experience. If experience means you served before. J. Victor, let me hear from you.
Well, so quickly, I know a few people on the list. Some I don't know very well. And this Appleton guy, it keeps following me all over the place. He took my CPB vote, and now he's replacing my best friend, big brother, and mentor, Blamo Nelson. He's going to replace Blamo. So I have to, I need to sit with this guy and understand what it is that he's looking for. But on a serious note, Luis and I will go way back. I mean, we started the Student Youth German Brigade in high school. They went to the University of Liberia and organized the Student Integration Movement. I went to Cardinal and we organized the Democratic Union of Students. But we all collaborated, and so I know him very well. Luis is he's been there at the UN before, and I think he did, performed, admirably, and I think he will also do well at the UN coming back again. I know there are concerns about his association with the NPP government of the Charles Taylor. Those concerns are legitimate. They're there, but he's a diplomat, and I think at this time, we need some seasoned hands in the field. So I think
You say he's a diplomat?
He is. He has been an ambassador. He's been at the UN before. That makes him a diplomat.
Okay.
So I think the government right now could use some experience. The appointment of Dr. Conte is what I think concerns me a little bit more. We're coming out of an administration whose foreign minister could not conduct business in the U.S. In the presence of Ambassador Kemeyan because of allegations of sexual impropriety that were levied against him. And Dr. Conte is coming from Nigeria, where he has been embroiled. His administration, yes, he may not have been directly involved, but I think the law goes after you for crimes of omission and commission. I believe he may have omitted in his dereliction of duty by prosecuting a misdeed that was allegedly carried out under his administration. Now, this is the age of the Me Too movement. Don't forget, just mere allegations could actually really land you into a lot of trouble. So I hope that he will not be shown by the U.S. if his letter of credentials are even accepted by the State Department. So I don't know. That is very concerning. Other than that, I think the rest of the guys, my friend JJ, Joseph Johnson, I think he's going on to Morocco. He's had some experience in government. So I think it's a pretty good list, except for the ambassador who's coming to the United States.
Thank you. Jimmy. I want to get your take on those appointments. And
You know,
starting with Mr. Appleton.
I mean, there's a lot of
Right after the
things.
election, we're talking about the Appleton effect. Is this another Appleton effect?
Well, we do know that the current administration does award those who have been in support during the contested elections. So it's not surprising to see that Appleton has been, appointed. But let's look at the whole idea of what an ambassador does or what an embassy purpose is. I think the first thing to do, and I'm sure Mr. Sharif will agree with me, they need to develop a foreign policy, because these envoys that have been appointed, they need to subscribe to the current policy of Liberia. What is the policy, and how are we going to engage the global stage, given where Liberia is now? There's several considerations to make. Beside the economics of the global engagement, besides the warring situations in the world, and besides the advancement of countries like China and all that, I think that is more important than just appointing people. But if I go to the specific appointments, I don't believe that the situation in Nigeria was addressed properly. I lived in that environment for a long time, and that situation should have warranted an investigation, and nobody seems to be getting punished. And I noticed that we're not addressing significant violations of human rights, abuses of power, and even acts of bribery. We are not being wholesome. If we allow these things to just simply be neglected, it's going to have an adverse effect. You have to be clinically sound if you want to make a change. And if we're just allowing all these things to be swept under the rug, it's not a good decision. And then I wonder if they have the finances, because I know that the Foreign Service suffers greatly for budgetary issues. So as much as these appointments are, it looks like, again, just awarding positions, but I don't know how significant or how effective it's going to be for us.
Thank you.
I'm hearing some noise.
Yeah, I'm hearing noise to myself.
Mohammed, I think that was
Yes.
Boakai's phone. What's your take on these appointments?
So first, Dennis, yesterday you guys had a fantastic show. I mean, everybody, y'all just kill it. Everybody was on point. Call and Dr. Dukley, our young brother, was also. I mean, everybody, and my brother Ahmed as well. And I was just sitting back, enjoying the show yesterday, and I said, I'm going to call you. I was going to call you to pray for me. When I become a millionaire, multi-millionaire, FOL is going to be top notch in Africa. It's going to be a major television industry, major media industry. This kind of analysis, you don't see this. You don't see this in Liberia anymore. You don't see this. You hardly see this kind of analysis. I mean, so my commendation to you, Dennis, And please convey my commendations to all those who featured yesterday.
Thank you.
Having gotten that out of the way, some of the appointees are people, Dennis, that you may know, that we know. Tiku Yale. Yale is Zerikorian, who lived with his father, John T. Yale, a former representative during the interim period of, during the war era, during one of the interim governments. So he's a fairly young man. I also know Ali Sila was with us here in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. He's a brilliant young man. So I'm happy for those guys. In terms of, Dr. Conte and others, I think that Dr. Conte will, I'm sure, he would like to, get that issue behind him as a professional person, as a professional, as an academic, as a diplomat. Those kinds of issues, you don't want them to linger. Even if the administration does nothing, but you as a professional, as an academic, as a, diplomat, you want to get those kinds of situations behind you. So I will hope that at some point, Dr. Al Hassan Conte will get that situation behind him. Um, Louis Brown, you saw the interview. You conducted the interview here, Comrade, with our brother, Comrade Louis Brown. Uh, my problem, Louis Brown is a very good man, kind-hearted. My problem with Louis Brown is his affiliation with the National Patriotic Front of Liberia as the one of the intellectual leaders during this time of barbaric enterprise launched by the NPFL. Mr. Brown, has never apologized for his role in that outfit, and so, but he is, he remains someone that I had admired at the University of Liberia. Very, very eloquent, very personable. But once the war came, some of those guys, show us their true colors, and they were never sympathetic to the abuses of human rights and all the, degradation of the Liberian nation state that was carried out during this time period. And so this is my problem with him. Other than that, but that's a big issue. So I'm not going to cast that to the side. But if I do cast that to side momentarily, he is a good guy. He is, he is where he's supposed to be because of what he does. And I watch, and your response is yes. Someone said, ever since he left the Foreign Service, ever since he left government, he has done nothing, and he's waiting for the next position. And this goes with a lot of Liberian public officials. They just wait for the next job. And Cole said, there's even no book, you didn't even go back to the university to even teach. So I second that motion. I second that. There's a lot of people out there who could be productive, but everyone else, people just wait for the next job to open up. And this is the problem that we have in Liberia. And then to finish up now, Dennis, is, this impunity. I think Jimmy talked about this impunity that goes on in Liberia all the time. You do something, 2 years later, everybody's forget and move on. And, it's on to the next thing. And it's not good. It's not good.
What's about the ambassador to Kuwait? And then some are saying that he's being retired. He's getting pension now. He's old.
Who Dr. Mohammed Khan? Who's Dr.
Dr. Brahma Kaba.
Dr. Kaba, I remember, back in time when I was at the Universal Liberia, and this is a long time ago. Dr. Kabata was a professor of sociology at the Universal Liberia, and so I don't know, Dennis. Look, this is the thing that administration after administration would do, and people there's no pipeline for bringing new blood, bringing in new, trying to make sure that you're bringing up the next generation of leaders. So you have young guys who graduate from the University of Liberia, Cotton University, stuff like that, that are still parading the streets of Monrovia. Dennis, I did international for my undergrad, which international relations. International relations was something that interests me even at the University of Liberia, and eventually my undergrad international studies. This is a terrific, it's a terrific field. You need people who are vibrant, to propound Liberian foreign policy, project Liberian foreign policy in a way that should be rightly done.
Look, Dennis, I know Duke is coming. I don't disagree that it is helpful to inject fresh young blood into the system. I actually go for that. But also, don't forget, some of these old hands, they bring a lot of experience and competence. I mean, Alan Greenspan ran the Federal Reserve here. He was no spring chicken, but he was one of the best of his time. You got to remember, Boakai is bringing in people who and him went to school together. And you should look at it in that light. He's bringing in his colleagues. So I think we'll see more of this. I think we should concern ourselves with would be competence, the capacity to perform.
But competence, if you can't even get up from there, you think competence will matter?
Hey, this is the age. This is the virtual age. You can conduct business in your bathroom.
Right. You saw how Biden was thrown out, Mr. Dukley.
Right.
So we can't overlook the age factor. Mr. Dukley, what's your take on these appointments? If you can unmute. Unmute, Mr. Dukley.
Sorry, I think, Dennis, I will come at this from a different angle. The individuals being designated for those ambassadorial posts, I will start with the one that I know best among them all, and that is Dr. Brahma D. Kaba. I've known Dr. Kaba probably for my entire life. And when I was a student in Egypt, he was the Liberian ambassador in Egypt, also accredited to Kuwait and United Arab Emirates at the time.
And when was this?
This was in the early 90s. To be precise, 1992.
Right. You told me some 30 years ago.
That's right. And so, Dr. Before then, he was a professor at the University of Liberia for a very long time. So Egypt was his first diplomatic posting when he came from the University of Liberia. And so Dr. Kaba is probably in his early 80s. So I don't think at that age, despite the experience, I don't think he has the vigor that his job requires at this point in time. With that said, I think it brings me back to what I know about the Liberian Foreign Service, which is usually people are appointed to positions of, ambassadorial positions. In most cases, they are not based on their competence. You see, one thing we get wrong in Liberia, which is usually once you have a master's degree, that almost automatically qualifies you for everything else that you want to do, which is, in my opinion, I don't think that's correct. Now, the way I look at it is that when you are being posted to Paris, France, London, the United States, and Moscow, these are the center of gravity in terms of international relations. So you want to post seasoned diplomats there. You want to post people there who can make a difference in terms of international relations. And so you put somebody in France who has no clue, doesn't speak French, who has never been anywhere that French is spoken, and so the interest that President Boakai is beholden by is just such that he keeps stumbling. I mean, all of this appointment, as far as I can see, uh, I, I can only say that I hope they will be as helpful as we are. But don't we have other people that are competent? I mean, why should you bring back Louis Brown to New York? I mean, don't we have other people who can be who are much I mean, I don't want to use the word better, but there are other people who can do that job better than Louis Brown. Louis Brown has been there before, you know. Now, you see, Dr. Conte was he was in academia for a very long time, starting from the United States, from Liberia, before he was sent over to Nigeria. And I think with it would have been a good idea if they have brought in, you know, younger people. Like Yole is a young guy. I don't know him personally, but I mean, Ali Sila is a fairly young guy. I knew Ali since he was a little kid. As a matter of fact, Ali was with Dr. Brahma Kaba in Egypt, and he's young, even though I know he doesn't speak French. But for me, the way I look at these positions, in order for you to be effective, you must speak the language of where you're going to serve, especially in those big capitals that I was just mentioning right now: Moscow, China, France, United States. So I mean, these guys are diplomats. They've been appointed as ambassadors. They'll probably do their job, but I don't think they will be as effective, especially for someone who is in Paris and someone who is in Morocco. You don't speak Arabic, you don't speak French. I don't see. I mean, it's a mixed bag for me, really.
Thank you, Jimmy. Let's look at the whole idea of foreign policy. By the time we hear the name Eastman, we think foreign policy, even though you know T and Eastman. I want to throw that out there. But what is President Boakai looking for? What is driving these appointments? Is you stated earlier, what really is the foreign policy, and how do these people that he has appointed, going to push that? What do you see there?
Exactly. That's why I mentioned that, because that is foremost, because each administration may develop its own outlook, its own policy for how it's going to govern itself. And I haven't seen a clear policy. Now, with the appointment of elderly people, like many of the panelists have portrayed, it almost more looks like he's going with maturity and all that. But when you're ready to carve out a new course, usually you start grooming younger men, younger people, young women, men and women toward your ideology. And I'm wondering, especially with some of these appointments, if is he simply allowing other people to make these appointments? These, especially these ambassadors, it doesn't look like Sarah Beslow was involved in these decisions.
Somebody was saying Sarah Beslow assistant, Dr. Kaba is the father. So and if you look at Sarah Beslow, that's the next question I was going to ask, is she has no experience in that area, right? So who do you expect that you can put around her? Basically, maybe people who are still, because what we've seen her do is almost like what she was doing with the United Nations, right? Asking for aid, asking for help, right? So it's more of, So don't you think that you have similar people? You wouldn't have seasoned diplomats like the Liberians that being in that foreign service field. You're going to have people who will say, okay, just go there, ask them, if they have some scholarships.
Well, Sarah Bessel has some learning. But she could be up to the task. But bringing these veterans in, they've been in the field a long time ago. You still need to give them a blueprint of what you want to establish. And I don't, and until you do, you haven't provided your mark. You see, you have to, if a government is going to reach out, it has to set its image. It has to mark its footprint. It has to have its own character. And I'm not seeing with these appointments, I'm seeing elderly people, but I haven't seen a marked policy that they will follow. However, the good thing about it is they're being seasoned. Then you don't see them making many faux pas, many mistakes, because they've been around the block. They know what it is. And so I think the experience will help in that direction. But it has to be way more than that. It has to be something of more purpose. Foreign policy can gain Liberia the kind of recognition we need, the kind of aid we need, the kind of partnerships we need, the kind of cohesion we need with the world. It helps an enormous amount, and we shouldn't take it for granted. Now, none of these appointees that I noticed have remarkable influence on the global stage. So I think right now they're placeholders. That's how I want to say it. They're placeholders until we establish a policy and send the kind of people that will implement that policy out there. I think they're all placeholders, and I don't know if we can afford it. And I say that repeatedly because I know what goes on in the foreign. There's been serious financial issues in that field, in that atmosphere, and I think these are just placeholders for now. That's how I look at it.
Thank you. Placeholder for now. Mr. Dukley, you were in Egypt, and so you interacted with people in the foreign service. What does a country like, let's say Japan, for instance, what business do we have with Japan? So what will Mr. Appleton be doing representing Liberia's interest in that part of the globe?
Yeah, I think Jimmy touched on some of it a short while ago. A diplomat who represents another country in another country, the country in another country, is someone who promotes the bilateral relationship between those two countries. And for Appleton, again, since he is not a seasoned diplomat, there is a blueprint that is at the embassy, following the footsteps of previous ambassadors before him. But also, the individual ambassador can make an impact with who they are. And I think that was what Jimmy was just touching on now. It's just representing your country is one thing, and the kind of individual you are also plays a role in advancing your country's interest in the country that you're representing your country. So, and I say this because when Dr. Kaba was Liberia's ambassador in Egypt, which was his first diplomatic posting, he was able to. He had some relationship that he had from the University of Liberia that also helped to promote Liberia in Egypt, and through that he was able to bring about a lot of bilateral development between Liberia and Egypt, through which many Liberians benefited, and Liberia as a nation also benefited, where technical support were coming in many areas, agriculture, so you name it. So because Abida is not a seasoned diplomat. Yeah, he's going to be there representing Liberia and follow the footsteps of other ambassadors that were there before him. But other than that, it's very minimal what he can do beyond what the previous ambassador before him have done. And you see, that's where I always say, in those capitals where people need seasoned diplomats to make an impact, you need to have somebody who knows that region and knows that country very well. And by that I mean how the foreign policy of that country works, and how can you tap into that policy to benefit your country. And this is where, when you bring someone who knows the region, can play that role in a way that they can maximize the benefit of that relationship to your country. But and again, as Jimmy said, one of the things that a very little attention is paid to, even our foreign service officials are not immune from the bad management we have back home, where sometimes their rents are not paid for months and months and months. And so, when you hear ambassador, it might sound lucrative, but in reality, these guys are just as suffering as the guys in Liberia. And I'm speaking from firsthand experience, where ambassadors was actually evicted from their residences because the Liberian government have not been able to pay their rents. So not having the right environment to function, besides not even being familiar with the region you are serving in, it's difficult. I remember when the late ambassador, I forgot his name, the late Liberian ambassador was in Egypt. This guy had served 4 years in Morocco, and he was transferred to Egypt. There's a direct link between that, where he's familiar with the region. He's gone to another part of the region where he can even be more effective. So these are some of the things I'm talking about, where you have people who are familiar with the region and they know how to tap into that familiarity in a way that will benefit their country. So I'm not sure if Africa is going to be any different other than just representing Liberia.
I want to add something quickly, Mr. Ja. Let me add something quickly to what Mr. Dukley said. Appleton should have never accepted that position. He should have never accepted an ambassador position. He should not accept anything less than a ministerial position. Okay? It looks, it looks like it's a cherished or elated position, but it's not really. And he would have been more effective staying within the country. When, allow me, I know some Nangbe will remember these things. When Tubman wanted to get you out of the political arena, he would assign you as an ambassador somewhere. And you, in other words, you will leave the political arena, and therefore you're somewhere far away. In those days, ambassadors were considerably well paid, but you are somewhere far away outside the political realm. So Appleton now has allowed himself to almost be exiled somewhere else. He should have never accepted that position. Not at all.
And what, because he wants to become president? I mean, what?
Of course, he was what the third runner-up.
Right. Yeah. Maybe that was not his focus. Maybe that's what he wanted. So he was auditioning to get in government. Who knows? But right, Mr. Sharif, still on the foreign policy issue. What is the way we see them? Do this tell you about the direction President Boakai wants to take the country when it comes to diplomacy and foreign service?
Yeah, when you look at some of the appointments, the young guys, I mean, there's vibrancy there, at least Sida and others. But I want to piggyback on something, and I'll come to that. I want to piggyback on something Jimmy was saying. Sometimes, in the past, when the president is trying to get rid of you, they send you abroad, right? They send you as an attaché somewhere, where you're sitting You can be seen but not heard from. You're far away from your country. When the presidents were trying to do mischievous things, with someone, and they will send them away. They send them away. There's something that Mugabe did to one of his closest aides. So he sent this man away as an attaché, and then took his wife. And Mugabe married this man's wife. The guy never came back home. Was attaché in India, and when he came back, he was basically done. So those things can happen to. I'm not saying this is the situation here, in terms of Appleton's appointment. But what we've seen with Liberia is that you even saw this with Ellen Johnson years. There was an opposition, I forgot his name, opposition leader who was appointed Liberian ambassador to the United States. I forgot his name. And Barnes, too. Mr. Barnes was also an ambassador here, and I think he came from an opposition. So these appointments are used to reward opposition leaders. So I don't know. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with Appleton accepting the position, not unless he thinks that he has a chance of winning the Liberian presidency, which he does not have a chance. We don't think that that he has a substantial chance of winning an election in Liberia, a presidential election in Liberia. So some of these people even form these parties. They contest these elections for this very reason, so that they can hold down some of these positions. And back to your question about the role of these ambassadors. Ambassadors, are serve in these countries to protect their citizens. Protect, for instance, in Japan, if the Japanese Liberian community in Japan, they know. Once there's an embassy in Japan, they know where to go. They know where to, where to get their their visas and stuff like that. And so, ambassadors serve in these countries to also protect their citizens. Ambassadors are the eyes and ears of their government, in these foreign countries. A crafty ambassador will keep his ears to the ground, to know things in that country, to be able to better inform the foreign minister, because the foreign minister is a boss. The foreign minister would then, convey these information to the president. In the case of the United States, when you see them send these attaches, to African countries, some other countries, some of these people are really spies. They're
legal spies. You're 100% correct.
Right. Reconnaissance. They're picking up information, from our government, from our government officials. They can, you can have an envoy, take your minister of the minister of defense for dinner, and over dinner they can be debriefing him, and he will give his country's secret to these people, sometimes unconsciously, and next thing you know, your entire information is out there. So those are some of the roles of these diplomats. Now, in the case of Liberia, I think Liberian diplomats go over there and just sit and wait for, time. They're just there, and there's not much some of them do, other than the fact that they just report to work every day and then wait for their paycheck. But it's more than a paycheck. That's a very, very important position.
Mr. Nabe, now with the new administration, what do you think your friend Louis Brown will do? And also, it interests me after the Retire Suffering rally, and Mr. Cummings had almost disappeared from the political scene.
Yeah.
Now, those who supported him, are they on their own? Should we see this as a collaboration between the Unity Party and the ANC, with Mr. Brown being sent to New York?
No. Well, I don't know if we would call it that, but I think this is what some of us, I've been advocating for this government to reach out to the best and the brightest. It
Right.
never mind.
You
Yes.
think Louis is representing ANC? Is that
No, Louis is not. Louis, first of all, Louis is not a member of the ANC. Louis was only brought in to help run the CPP. Louis is not a member of the ANC. He's
okay?
not a member of the ANC. So I don't see this as ANC coming into the UP government.
Or let's say CPP. You think Mr. Cummings is kind of okay? Let's get somebody from the CPP side to be part. Do you think that what went on? I mean, I may be speculative, but what is it that?
No, I think the president simply reached out to Ambassador Brown because of his own pedigree. I don't think it had really much to do with the president looking for a CPP representative. I don't think so. I'm not aware of discussion being held by the government with the CPP. First of all, the CPP has been dissolved. I'm sure. I hope we all know that. The CPP, the LP has gone back to its. So there is no CPP, and Louis is not a member of the ANC. But coming back to what we're all talking about here, look, let's be honest with you. Countries like Liberia, what is our foreign policy? But our foreign policy is basically going out there and promoting the country so that investors will come to the country to attract investors. Primarily diplomatically, we vote in lockstep with ECOWAS, with AU, with the US at the UN. When the US wants to get its vote in order on Russia or Israel or whatever. You remember that one time in December when Liberia voted the other way, where the rest of the African countries were going the other way on the Gaza ceasefire. You remember how irate Liberia, the president became president, where he publicly had to go and reverse that vote. So basically, our foreign policy really is just basically in lockstep with the organizations we're a part of. Individually,
but Mr. Nambi, one time we led Africa for the freedom in South Africa, for all those countries that were under colonial rule. We set the pace. They were looking for us for leadership. So it is today that we have taken another role. But that can be changed if we promote ourselves or we propel ourselves to the forefront in the fight for African justification.
No, I absolutely agree with you, Jimmy. And what you're describing is the days when our budget was finalized almost primarily by us, as opposed to your current day budget, which is based on solicitation from foreign sources. And so, unfortunately, we have to do the bidding. I mean, that's just the fact. So most of these ambassadors, they go out there to promote the country and try to attract investment. Basically, that's what they do. I honestly, I'll be hard pressed to tell you what his current government's foreign policy is. If it is anything different from We Out or Ellen Johnson's, I doubt it. Basically, that's what they do. So, you want the people out there who can go in there and network and put your image out there and attract investment. If you remember, a couple of months ago, we were advocating for the president bringing in someone like Alice Cummings to be his economic ambassador or something, or even Dr. Moneyba. Those people who have some gravitas on the international level. They can go in a room, talk to people, and encourage them to look this way and look Liberia's way. So, I mean, that's how I see it. And I think Louis being at the UN before, I think the president believes he can go out there. Especially remember, this appointment came right on the heels of the president's departure from the UN, where Sarah Finney, whatever it was, she was forced to resign and she had to be recalled. So obviously something happened on the president's last trip to the UN. I believe the protocol did not serve him right. And so he decided to go a different way. So hopefully this is what is happening.
And Dennis, real quick, right?
Yeah.
Real quick. So, in the past, ambassadorial appointments, especially to, countries like the United States and Great Britain and France, these were reserved as the president doing you a real favor. These were reserved for the president's favorite people, the president's right-hand people. So I don't know. It's interesting to see now. So maybe in the future we'll have to now analyze why Louis Brown was done this favor, especially that he didn't support President Boakai.
Mhm.
Back in 1945, William V.S. Tubman appointed former President Arthur Barkley as Liberian ambassador to the United States, and Barkley served that position from 1945 to 1952. Tubman did that essentially. Tubman rise to the Liberian presidency, if you will, in the nutshell, was due to Barkley. Barkley, who cited him in Harper when he delivered that speech in 1920, and he just told Tubman that we need to bring this guy up to Monrovia. And so after all the horrendous things that Barkley did in the late 1920s, when Tubman became president, he rewarded. I'm sorry. I think I'm mixing them up. I think it was Charles D.B. King.
C.D.B. King. Yes.
King. Yes.
Right.
So after all the horrendous things that he did, he was still, given, this appointment.
Thank you. Let's
I
move on.
wanted to quickly add, and I don't mean this is what Mr. Sheriff is doing, but I just wanted to make sure that our viewers understand there's a difference between Liberia's ambassador to the United States and Liberia's permanent mission to the UN.
Correct.
Yes, those are two different posts. And like Mr. Sheriff is saying, he's right. Most of these, like the UN, they call it the European, the code of whatever St. James, whatever they call that, ambassadorial posts, say, to the EU community. Those are prestigious positions. That's where you go and harden up with the best in the world, whatever it is. And so those are really reserved. To Jimmy's point too, Tubman did send out his opponents to various countries, but those were people who were in his face. I don't believe Mr. Appleton is in this current president's face unless he has a girl like Mr. Sherry said, who the president likes.
But let me ask you this a little bit. Can you imagine somebody who's third in line in the election? He's supposed to be cultivating votes, cultivating political clout right now toward 2029, and they send you out of the country.
Jimmy, that is still being analyzed how he got those votes, because when he called when he called his first press conference after he got those votes, there were more banana leaves than human beings. So let's leave it as it is. Just to clarify that the ambassador designated to the United States is Dr. Hassan Conte, and Louis Brown is the ambassador designated to Liberia Permanent Mission in New York.
Right.
That takes us to our next topic, which is the $25 million work study program. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Madam Sarah Beslo-Yanti, announced at MICAD that a $25 million master degree work study program for aspiring Liberian students. The program designed to provide advanced education and practical experience would enable participants to pursue graduate degrees in the fields of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and artificial intelligence in the United States. And they also say in Canada. Good thing, bad thing, great, not so great. Mr. Dukley, let me start with you. What problem do you think the government is trying to solve with this 25 million master degree work study program? Mr. Dukley, we got to get you a laptop. The phone is not working.
Dennis, on the face of it, it's a good idea, and my only fear is that whether this whole scholarship thing is going to be handled the way it should be handled, and I'm saying this because we've been here before, and the idea in of itself is good because young men and women from Liberia will benefit. But again, these are not. It's not even supposed to be a fanfare where it's announced big. These things are supposed to be some of the benefits Liberia can reap from its bilateral relationship. And when I talk about having a seasoned diplomat, these are the people who can initiate these kind of thing where Liberia can benefit. So what's the girl's name? Who was the orator of the last Independence Day? Paley,
Reptile.
Raptel said it that she was once in charge of programs like this, something similar to this, where she found that people were not following the rules that they're supposed to follow to get this scholarship. She came to find out that people were forging documents, people were buying their way through the system. So the idea itself is a good idea, and I think Liberia should benefit from it if it's implemented properly, if the rules that govern this whole process is followed. So, I mean, this is something that's supposed to happen on a normal circumstance with no fanfare, because this is what government do, to find way to build the capacity of their workforce, to try to strengthen their bilateral relationship so that the country can benefit. And I mean, countries like Canada, the United States, they have most of what we need and we can benefit from. And I don't even think, in my opinion, these scholarships should be limited to only Canada and the United States. There are many places in Africa that Liberians can benefit from. We can benefit from Morocco, South Africa, even Nigeria. So I mean, these are places that, and we do have good bilateral relationship with these countries. So we shouldn't just limit it to the United States and Canada. Yeah, these places are good, but why don't we expand this to other countries that we can benefit from? Even Ghana, we can benefit from our bilateral relationship with Ghana. So yeah, it's a good idea. Only that if they do not corrupt it, if they do not try to cut corners around it.
Yeah. And somewhere I read it said it was a loan. I mean, I'm still looking for details concerning where this 25. Mr. Sharif, have you learned any more about this scholarship, where the money coming from, and why this time? What's the
you're right.
What's the
Yeah. So we have the same information. The information I have, this is a loan. The government is creating this pipeline to channel students to the United States and Canada to study in the STEM field. So your question of why is very well in place because of the fact that I'm looking at the Faulkner College of Agriculture, which is understaffed and underfunded. I'm looking at the A.M. Douglas College of Medicine, which is underfunded, understaffed. You
go too far. The lab at D2 and Tottenham High.
Yeah,
and
teachers college, right? Teachers college and stuff like that, which are underfunded. So half of those funds, the places that we just named, half of the funding that will be spent now can really do some good business and elevate those institutions within those colleges within the University of Liberia. So if you strengthen that, to me, that is those are funds well spent. If you ask me now, there are places, Dennis, where for example, some other countries where medical education can be obtained in a less expensive way. I don't know if Cuba still have this program. From what I read a couple of years ago, they still had this program for third world students to study medicine in Cuba for free. So why is Liberia not looking in those directions? I don't know. I don't understand it. There are other countries. And again, we just talk about diplomats. This is what, diplomats can find this kind of information and channel this kind of information to their home country. You're not just going to go there and sit down and wait for your paycheck. This is why you go out, you keep your ears to the ground and find this kind of information. If me and you can find this information, Dennis, those people who are paid mighty money, they can sure find this information if they want to.
I interviewed some librarian students in Ukraine before all this thing. I mean, and the money they are paying is like peanuts to get up
Yes.
to master degree.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But again, Victor, let's still talk about this. I mean, what are other here are some of the ideas that were coming to me, right? And sometimes we say, I'm saying, what is the problem that we are trying to solve here? What is it? Why do we need to train people in this area to do what as our need right now? If don't we already have, like, let's say if you even went out as a government to go into the diaspora, wouldn't you have the same people? I mean, I've been trying to go to Sino and be superintendent, right? And at the same time teach Sino what? If the government made some, and I'm serious, if the government made some effort to recruit people like me, people like Jimmy just retired and he's like, and go to Liberia. He's an engineer. Can we not go to Ghana where Dr. Edison Pajibo, who applied also to become university president? People in Nigeria, I was there in Nigeria, so many librarians have gone there.
Yeah.
Can we find a way to recruit these people and bring them home, including people? My daughter is going to get a bachelor next year, right? Those young kids that can we not put them together? I always reference Tise Goya, who has been trying to go to library and teach for free.
Yeah.
Are we not able to mobilize and get these people for a fraction of that amount to go to library and work? Victor, are there other ideas? I really don't understand, but this damn thing started with your man Cummings too. So let's talk about it.
Well, I really can't disagree with you that an investment of that nature. First of all, I am confused as to what this is. Whether this is a loan to be given out to the students or this is a loan given to the government by some country for the students, I don't understand that. But I couldn't disagree with you that investments of this nature, there is always the secondary benefit, even probably the tertiary benefit. You invest that kind of because you're talking about suppliers, you're talking about trainers, a lot of people will benefit. So it makes a lot of sense to have this kind of thing happen in country. I don't know exactly why this is going to go overseas as it was announced. So there is that. Then there is also the whole problem, the optics of how this government rolls out, these kinds of programs, as in the case of the Deputy Minister of State announcing 285 yellow machines for road work, to the surprise of the Minister of Public Works, who is the sector head. So this program, I understand, I went to look for the clip, I couldn't find it, but I understand the pronouncement was made by the foreign minister at the Minister of Information. Was the Minister of Education in attendance? Why isn't the minister? That is the sector head. So this is a big investment. So those are questions that really I can't answer. But as to why this isn't necessary right now, AI is the future now. STEM is the future, for our people who may not know STEM,
Before you get to STEM, at least you can get somebody to clean the dead on the Somalia Drive.
I agree with you. I'm saying I agree that money could be invested in country.
Stockton Creek there so we can drink it.
Yeah. And
why are we talking big stuff if we can't even deal with? And let me give you an example. I'm working with a few students. One of them is a family member who graduated from forestry, and I say, they do their thesis before they graduate. Why it could be good, but I mean, these are people that are not even trained to write the basic 5-paragraph essay. I'm working with another student at one of those new universities. I get them confused. They said you should work with someone they assign. You should pay that person to guide you to write the thesis.
So let me tell you,
do you even know how to write a basic 5-paragraph essay? They don't know.
Let me reinforce your point. Look.
Are you serious?
And this is not. I missed that. Let me and let Duke enjoy his amazement first. Then I'll come. Duke, go ahead.
No. I was just sort of reacting to what Dennis said.
Yeah, let me just say this. And this is not to put our people down. All of us went to school. I went to Tottenham High School from there before I went to Cotton and I came here. But when you come here and you're sitting with your peers, right? Some of the stuff that we're just learning here newly is some of the stuff these kids do when they're in high school. Those are their projects.
Yes.
So you come to the college level And some of the stuff that you're just learning is stuff that they did years ago. They just rehearsing to go to the meat course of why you're there. And so you struggle a lot. And it has a lot of self-esteem issues associated with that too. So, I don't know, they're going to take these kids and send them over here. They will be, doing this STEM program with most of the kids. Some of these kids already, before you leave, the high school level or junior college level, you learn how to build stuff. They have these robot club, this computer lab club and all of that. That's what they do over the summer. They do all these little projects. So when you go onto the college level, you're elevating the stuff that you already started on. For most of our kids,
let's
this is
talk
going
about
to be their
reading
first
first.
exposure. So yeah, you're right. We need to reinforce most of our learning institutions in the country first. Like you said, the technical colleges, the high school, the University of Liberia, help them so that these kids will have this hands-on experience. Most of what we learn is theory. So when the real thing confronts you, you get intimidated. And then you begin to have doubts, second guess yourself. And some of our kids are some of the smartest in the world. But it's just because we are behind in most of this stuff. And so the challenge becomes daunting. And that's how most of us, we end up finding something else.
And Jimmy, let me come to you because Victor raised a very important point. I mean, why is this coming from the foreign ministry instead of the Ministry of Education? Because I mean, if those of us who are kids in this country, in first grade, sometime in the summer, they have a reading list. So these little kids read like 20 books during the summer, first grade.
Yes.
When my daughter was in, before first grade, the kindergarten, they have every day they go to school, whatever little thing they write, they compile it. At the end, they say you are publishing your book. So the concept of even publishing a book, that's from kindergarten.
Yeah.
And we're not doing any of that. Okay, I was just working with another graduate of the University of Labrador, basic resume, just the parts, because they are writing the resume as if you are sending a text message. So when they start talking about these things, STEM and all this, Jimmy, it gets me confused as to really what is it that we want, that we think the problem is that we are trying to solve here.
Good point you raised. I'm a advocate for improving the existing institutions because I know the cost as compared to sending our people abroad are greatly amplified when we do that. And also the returns. You see, right now, Liberia, there's economic situation facing Liberia, and everybody is aware of the brain drain. If we send, let's say the scholarship program is robust and sending only our best. When you're sending your best to United States of America, for instance, or Canada, and where that doctors can't even earn a cab driver salary in Liberia, are they going to return? I want to see our people get the best education. Mind you, I am a recipient of scholarships, so I know what it did for me. But right now, if we send our best away, what are the guarantees they're going to want to return? And if you have a limited amount of resources, I'd rather see those resources being used to buff up the institutions in Liberia, such as LU, such as what's that Catholic University named, all those other institutions in the country. Because if it's education if it's training, me and I look at education and training as the same thing, because if you get an education and you're not trained to do a job, I think we've done nothing. Education for us in the third world, where we are, Liberia, has to be a training program that makes you functional soon you leave school. Not when you leave school, it's all theoretical and you can't apply it. We need training as well as education. So that is what we need to be doing for our focus. Now, if this is a loan, and that doesn't make sense at all. We need to bolster our local institutions. But if it is a scholarship that schools are offering, we have to be careful, because if we send our best, they may not return, given the economic situation we find ourselves. So I believe that this is a good gesture, but we need to examine it like we do everything else. You know, give us, I want to see our students come here and excel, you know, and do all they can do as well. But I want to see Liberia get the most of every opportunity it is given. And for me, the best thing to do is to improve the institutions back home and improve the opportunity for students after they leave school to put it to work. That's where I see we'll make more progress in our dispensation.
Dennis, if I piggyback on, so one of the things too, you know, just to support what Jimmy is saying, one of the things I was thinking about, you know, in the course of this discussion now, is that, you know, you mentioned CC Goya, who has been trying to go back home and, you know, contribute to the educational system. There's a lot of us sitting here that will also like to assist in some way, shape, or form with improvement in technology. These people can invest in technology to allow some of us to be able to teach a course at the university. You could do something like that. I mean, Jimmy is here, very experienced. I mean, Jimmy will be willing, I'm sure, to share his expertise to train people, you know, students. A lot of us will be able to do this. I mean, this is something they can do. They can look in that direction. So this calls for what? This calls for creativity, innovation. So people have to think outside the box. Doing things the same old way, you got to move away from that. You mentioned the brain drain, Jimmy, and we've been talking about that. Cole has been talking about that. I think I heard her yesterday talk about the brain drain. Now, when you have, you know, the brothers and sisters, the well-learned brothers and sisters here in the United States, you can tap into that without them leaving, since you can't afford, you know, you can't afford to take them back home. You can tap into their talent, their intellect right here while they're still in the United States. I mean, I will be willing to teach a course, you know, if that's an opportunity that's available. I can even do it for free if that's an opportunity that's available, that the government, because this has to be a bilateral thing, the government has to also do its part. You know, you have advances in technology. We can do that, but nobody is thinking outside of the box, and that's the problem.
Dugley.
Look, I just want to add a comment to something Jimmy said earlier, to see if we can help to support our you know, institutions back home. And I remember when I was in Egypt, I was opportune to have met one Theophilus Sompong. I believe, yeah, the late Theophilus Sompong. I believe at the time he was the president of the William V. S. Tubman University, and one of their Egyptian professors that were there had died, and he brought the remains back to Egypt. And so when he was meeting with us, the Liberian student, he had toured many institutions in Egypt, and he commented that, wow, I didn't believe that these guys have this much, you know, facilities in this country. So our bilateral relationship, Brother Sharif said, ambassador needs to be listening. The ambassador needs to look. These are the areas where we can benefit from. So it doesn't have to be from Canada. It doesn't have to be from the United States. We have institutions on a continent that we can benefit from probably either for free or even fraction of what it's going to be costing us now to send our students to the United States and to Canada. And so, but this can only happen when we have individual ambassadors who are in those countries. Like I said earlier, Morocco, Egypt, South Africa, Nigeria. You can strengthen your bilateral relationship to the point where you have these technical development assistance where you can send your students to Egypt, you can send them to Morocco, you can send them to Nigeria, you can send them to South Africa through the African bilateral relation that you
What's
can.
going on, kid?
Is that from here? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
That a retiree. He on his
Go ahead.
he's on his
Okay. Because Dennis, I have seen this firsthand where the Liberian government have asked for technical assistance from the Egyptian government to improve their telecommunication system, which was provided. And every year, the United Nations has the Demographic Institute in Cairo, and they have one in Accra, Ghana, where students go there. And there was a gentleman by the name of, maybe one of you might know him, Dr. Sonkari T.B.A. Sonkari B.A. was a demographer who went to the United Nations Demographic Institute in Cairo. And there were nationalities from everywhere. So Dennis, if we strengthen our institutions, like the William B.S. Topman University of Science and Technology, that's one place that we can develop, and it can reap a tremendous benefit for Liberia. And for far less than what we're going to be paying now, even though, like I said, it's a good idea. But I think we can get similar assistance for far less.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. And we can strengthen institutions like WAPLO.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something else, Dennis.
We sure can.
Our last thing here I want us to talk about before we bring in our callers, and let me also announce that this Sunday at 3 p.m. I'm going to be interviewing the Office of Diaspora Affairs. They are having their Diaspora Library Annual Return 2024. We have people who are going to be here who are going to talk about that. So you want to tune in tomorrow about 3 p.m. And this is in line with what we were talking about earlier, right? The Diaspora Office. So what we're going to be discussing here is a month of activities in Liberia, launching the Diaspora, the return, right? So I'm very interested in all the different things that can be done besides just the launch. We want to see what specific steps the administration can take to attract those of us in the diaspora to go home and help. So join me. That will be tomorrow or Sunday, right here on Focus on Liberia. Here, let me play a little clip of
Mama Liberia.
This December, the Diaspora Office at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs invite you to get ready for an unforgettable homecoming experience as Liberia welcomes her diaspora home again. Join us for the first ever Liberia Diaspora Annual Return, where heritage meets celebration. From cultural festivals to investment summits, from heritage awards to kids' Christmas parties, from culinary delights to breathtaking tours and beaches. Come rediscover the beauty of Liberia. Explore Liberia's rich history and culture with guided tours of the historical Providence Island, the city of Edina, the National Museum, just to name a few. Embark on a thrilling adventure through the stunning landscapes of Robertsport, Lake Piso, Patui Waterfall, Mount Nimba, and so many more. Join the excitement at our Diaspora Heritage Awards, the One Liberia March, and the Peace and Reconciliation Dialogue, where unity and culture come alive. And don't miss our incredible investment summit, our exclusive garden party, or the Christmas cantata, events that will leave you with memories to last a lifetime. This is more than a trip, it's a welcome home. President Boakai invites you to visit Liberia this December for the 2024 Liberia Diaspora Annual Return. Your heritage, your history, your culture. See you in Liberia.
So I'll be interviewing them on Sunday at 3 p.m. You don't want to miss that. And it ties into what we're discussing. So don't miss it. The Ombudsman, right? So according to the code of conduct, if you are working in government, you can have a party position. That's double dipping. The Ombudsman said, don't do it. There are some parties went to the Supreme Court. They say, this other part, we don't understand it. Supreme Court said, we can't block what the Ombudsman is saying. We have to do it. So it's not my place to stop him. He's only implementing the law, right? Jimmy, I thought this was supposed to be a no-brainer.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Thank you. I thank you for the question. It all depends on the country and how they determine they're going to regard one being in a political party and serving the nation. It can be done either way. Now, there are some ethics and public perception to consider, but really, it all depends on the way the country regards something like this. You know, you can, in some ways, it helps. It can help the system. In other words, you can practice your politics in consonance, I should say, in consonance with public policy. There's nothing really wrong with that. It only when you are subjugating national interest to those of the party. That's when you have to. That's where the line should be drawn. But it is not unusual in several countries of the world that one is also a party member or party official and an official in government. Now, for us, the Ombudsman has determined or has deemed it not conventional, not the way we should do things.
That's based on the code of conduct.
I would challenge him.
That's based on the code of conduct that
What is the code of conduct? What is it contravening? What is it going against? What ethical thing is it doing wrong that you cannot be a party member and part of the?
You are challenging the code of conduct.
What is the code of conduct that it is contravening? That's my question. What specifically? You have to quote me. What clause? What stipulation in that code of conduct that it is being contravened before I will agree? It can work, but we need to. Maybe it's better for us simply because we're not given to nationalism. We don't think that Liberia should be put high above anything else, and maybe that's the reason why. But you will have to specifically show me what is it contravening. You know, what ethical crossroads are we going to engage if we allow people to be part of a party and at the same time a representative of the government?
I like what you said.
Why can't appointees? If a senator elected by his constituents to the government from a specific party, if he can conduct government affairs without contradiction or without bias, why can't a public appointee do the same?
Thank you. And sometimes that happens if you have when they have something in the code of conduct when the guy they call the poverty doctor. That's what happens sometimes when you make laws that are targeting certain people. They say, well, if you want to run, you got to resign because you're going to use your office, you're going to use the time. Well, if somebody is working, and I will use the example of clocking in and clocking out. If you're on your office time and you leave to go run campaign, you get fired, right? So we don't need to make a law that says, okay, before you run for president or anything, you have to resign. But again, Mohammed, what's your take on this? Jimmy is even challenging the law.
Yeah, I don't have sufficient information on that law, but the optics is not good. So I will side with the ombudsman in the office of the ombudsman in this case, because as chairman of a political party, and you are, so let's say the chairman of the Unity Party is at the same time the minister. I'm hearing noise. At the same time, Minister of Finance, but you are paid to conduct business. You are paid from taxpayers' money to conduct public business. So the two, you're mixing up the two by representing your party and representing the public. So yes, I would agree. You give up one, but what's going to happen now is that when this goes forward the way it is, a lot of these people are going to give up their party positions. Some of them have not been in these party headquarters since the election. They're going to quickly give up these party positions. They rather do that than give up their government jobs, because they have big jobs and stuff like that. So I want to I will lean on the side of the ombudsman, just for the optics of it, and the fact that public officials are paid from taxpayers' money. You have to represent everybody. You represent the Unity Party partisans. You represent the Congress for Democratic Change partisans. You represent all Liberians. You're not just representing the Unity Party in these public positions.
And I don't know the name they call this in law, but we sometimes have the tendency of making one law on top of another law, right? Because take for instance, there are certain simply because we don't want to enforce any rule, right? So we make another law. So just like I was saying, if you're on the clock, if you are working, you're not supposed to leave. If you have a government vehicle, you're not supposed to use it for your personal affairs. That you don't need another law to be able to enforce that.
Right.
Right. So if you, for instance, you are a Unity partisan or a CDC partisan, whatever, you are not supposed to do things or take the government office time and use it for your party affairs. That should be an existing law. So you don't need this or a new law to. But because we don't want to enforce some of these things, we try to make new laws, right? If you are, many times we've heard that the Unity Party chairman and the secretary, they are asking for money for people who to work in government. So if you ask for money, if you ask for bribe, that's a crime. So whether you are a party person or not, that's a crime.
But last time, Dennis, the chairman of the Unity Party had to conduct party business, came out, made an elaborate announcement. He was the first to call for the firing of Amin Modad. So was he still on the clock when he was doing that? Because he was conducting party business when he did that. So who was checking on him? Who was holding him accountable? Did he get paid for that? Did he get paid for those hours from the taxpayers' money? I think he did get paid. So that's the kind of thing
we want to check, and that's why we want to make new laws. Let me hear from Dukley.
Yeah, Dennis, this is very disturbing to say the least. Look, an ombudsman anywhere, their primary job function is to promote fairness and administrative accountability. Now, they're supposed to go right across the board, like Brother Mohammed said. It doesn't have to be a particular party. It's just right across the board, whether you are Unity Party, whether you are cities, everybody. Now, the complaint that comes to the ombudsman has to fit one of these two criteria. Whether it's fair, whether administratively, someone has to be held accountable. So this notion of double dipping, we have now come to normalize it as way of doing things. And so the moment you say or do something different than what we are used to, then people are ready to challenge it. But the rules are very clear, Dennis. But because we have not been enforcing our own laws on the books, people are now assuming that doing things the way we are doing it right now is the proper way. Otherwise, I mean, all the ombudsman is doing here, he's trying to make sure that there is fairness in the system and people are here accountable administratively in terms of the area that they're responsible for. So, but the fact that this is even taken to where it is now, I mean, it just needs you to scratch your head. I mean, where are we heading? I mean, this is a no-brainer, but hey, we are talking about the Republic of Liberia here. So we shouldn't be surprised then. But I mean, here is in my opinion, in my lay opinion, I think the ombudsman is doing the right thing.
Mr. Nabi.
Well, this is one of those unforced errors, I believe, that we all talk about in this government. First of all, I can understand if, this government is going after people who maybe were carried over from the previous government because they have tenure and all of that. But, they appointed these people, the party chairman of the Unity Party is a visible person. How does this government allow this kind of conflict of interest to come into play? I don't understand. Why did they even initiate this conflict in the first place? I don't understand that, But, like the previous speakers are saying, what exactly is the law? Because as far as I know, the Appleton who was just appointed, he is still the standard bearer of the grassroots democratic movement. He just got appointed. He didn't resign. Is the ombudsman going to go after him? The foreign minister is still the standard bearer of the African Liberation League, and she's a foreign minister. And there are some such people in the government, right? Are they going to go after these people? So it just looks to me like selective enforcement of the law, and it is bound to run up against difficulties and complications. These people went to the I don't know. I think the Supreme Court sided with them, but I think they might, I don't understand what the law is. But what I don't understand also is why was this conflict allowed to even begin in the first place? If you knew the law there that establishes conflict of interest in this kind of instance, why would you then go ahead and appoint these people? Another unforced error.
Maybe vetting was not done, and
Maybe.
so it appears like you can have it, but as long as you're not doing anything with it, even though Madame Sarah Beslo-Yanti is still the standard bearer of the of our party, but as long as she's not doing party stuff, that's okay.
But Dennis, it seems like sometimes I don't understand Liberia and a few countries. It's like standard bearer, vision bearer. You vision bearer forever, for life. You standard bearer for life. Like, what is that?
No, it's not. It's not for life. Usually, I tell you this. From most party, right? You remit that until they go to the convention.
But Victor, wait. You acting like they say. Often people go draw water, then bamboo say, and I carry heavy bucket.
And I go nowhere.
That's the way it is. That's the way it is, Dave Victor. I mean, like people, how many times you see Mr. Cummings, your man, he's been standard bearer forever. I mean, Sarah Besco standard bearer forever. These people, they'll stand up election cycle after election cycle.
Because of that, that's why they changed it to political leader. Because standard bearer need to run, right? So they change it.
Yes.
Political leader, so they can have that. Because these parties, they are one person. Sometimes you found it, like in the case of Mr. Cummings, even though it's a big party, but he pays the money.
Yes.
So everybody have to bow to him and worship him,
Right.
Like Madame Sarah Beslo, that's her party.
Right.
Like when it came to the late Bronsky, that was his party. There's without Bronsky, that's his party,
and it's
right?
actually your personal property. It's like your personal portfolio. You carry around. Nobody can challenge you all day.
If people challenge you, like who was what's his name? Francis. When he went against Doe, when he went against President Doe for the nomination, he was voting right, but guess what? He didn't even vote for himself. So he had 0.
No, people do challenge them. People do challenge them. I mean,
the standard bearer.
the late doctor from New Jersey here, Dr. Cassell, he had what's Wilma Pay and other people
Oh
challenging
yeah,
him.
that was a big.
So sometimes it happens, but usually the standard bearer they hold that title until they go to the next convention. Then once they elect a new standard bearer, then they exit the stage. But most of them are there for in perpetuity. You're right. You guys are right.
That's not a stand-up bearer is not a set position. It's not a set job, established job. So this is for election purposes. Right after the election, you're no longer stand-up bearer. You don't. What stand are you bearing now? Like vision bearer, all these different things. It's unbelievable.
I think they're trying to avoid conflict of interest, which one can understand may arise. But is there an actual? If you're not getting paid to do a job, what is what can you hold against that person who is also a leader for any group? You can't say you can't be a leader just because you got his job. If you're getting paid to do it, I will understand that. But if you're not being paid and you're simply a visionary or leader, people are leaders of the church and at the same time do their work. People are leaders of very.
Jimmy, I see your point. Like for instance, the president here in the United States, President Biden now is the leader of the Democratic Party.
Yep.
President Boakai is the leader of the Unity Party. So is he going to resign? Anyway, that's it. Let me bring in one caller if you want to join. 605-313-60.
Correction, Dennis, Kamala Harris is the leader of the Democratic Party, not President Biden.
Okay.
It's just standing there. I don't know what
prior to that.
Yeah.
We got one caller. Let me bring one caller on the line. That's James Colley. Mr. Colley, you're live. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, good evening, honorable panelists. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I can sit here to talk in the background, so I don't know if it's a feedback. But this is really interesting topic, and I really would like to chime in. The 25 million that is spoken about, I'm not sure if it was the foreign ministry that advocated for it. Maybe that's the reason why they have to bring it out there. The idea of 25 million is not a bad idea. I remember, I don't know if it was during Ellen's administration, former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's administration. I remember when I was in Atlanta, Georgia, the church that I attended, we have few gentlemen there who came for military training, and it said that the government was spending about $100,000 each of them. And I think you can see that's profitable because the military right now is quiet, well, professional. It might have helped training those people professionally. But like Dennis, you said, I mean, looking at the objective and what Jimmy also said, it really makes sense. Again, when I think about it, 25 million, I would think about framework. And one of the things that I will think about would be the dual citizenship. The dual citizenship is a good framework for many of the refugees that came to the States abroad, went to Australia, Germany, and all over the world, even China. I'm not sure if anyone went to China, but their children have learned a lot. I've learned that some Liberians who keep their children, some are surgeons. A lot of them are engaged in technical areas. And I can tell you, even my daughter works for Google. She worked with Amazon before, but she works for Google as one of their managers. So the dual citizenship would be a good framework. And one of the benefits of that is they won't be lost in the diaspora. As you can see, we have African Americans and all these other people that left Africa trying to find their way back. And if we're not careful, Liberia will fall in the same trap. We have children who may not find their way back to Liberia. And as of now, a lot of them are Americans who may not be even able to contribute to Liberia with their expertise. They have quality education, good education. Some are doctors, like I said, may not even be able to contribute to Liberia. But the dual citizenship would be a good framework. For example, if I went to my daughter right now and said, "Oh, your brothers and sisters are struggling back home," maybe if the government would sponsor some website for diaspora Liberians children who are in the United States to contribute $5, $2, $3, I'm quite sure they will be able to raise a considerable amount of money and to be able to help other students who want to help with projects, in our light. Another thing I want to speak to is the high school trades. I wish, the government will also implement. I benefited from Tottenham High. It's in the Tottenham High. And I managed to have learned electronics that helped me to go to LU to, enroll into the electrical engineering program there. So if the government can actually try and strengthen these schools with trade so that when students are graduating, they graduate with carpentry, drafting, something handy that they can work with. And also LU, strengthen the LU program, software engineering, computer science, and you name it, construction engineering, and the rest of it. These will help.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy.
I always felt some kind of kinship to this guy, but now that I know he's a fellow partner, I'm really
also
proud.
strengthening MCSS programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we used to look down on those government schools, man. We're in private schools, so.
No, but not Mahai.
We always
Not Mahai.
Not the high school. We held our own, my brother.
Mahai was one of the best schools in the country. Always, it's been that way.
And we always wanted the BTC at our eyes right.
All right, those are the colors we have tonight. Let's wrap up.
Session.
Let's wrap up. Victor, you're closing.
Well, great show. I think the issue discussed the $125 million. I think it's I think the intention is good. It's just that I think hopefully a little bit more thought will be put into how it is. There's still a lot out there we don't know about it, but like most of us have said here, something like that could do a lot of good for the local economy, and the kids will get almost the same kind of benefit, as opposed to sending them here in the U.S. So, but the ombudsman, a lot of questions too. The guys, I think they've reached the end of the road, because you can't appeal the Supreme Court. I understand. So now, at least it remains to be seen, what it is that they are going to do about the decision of the court. So again, what is the ombudsman going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to fire them? So we'll see. But this is a conflict of interest that should not have started in the first place. So again, one of those unforced errors. The appointments, hopefully, those who are being appointed in the government, hopefully they'll bring and add some value. Of course, some of them are already, active. I think Ambassador Conte is being active at the University of Liberia or other places. We'll see. The one thing we didn't touch on is, hopefully maybe we can touch on it during the next appearance, the recent elections here in the U.S. I don't know if you guys talked about it yesterday, and how it is going to impact the rest of us. That's something I think we all need to really sit and seriously take into consideration. I've seen some of our colleagues from back home very excited about Donald Trump coming in. I don't understand the motivation for such a segment. I hope we all understand what we're in for the next 4 years. But great show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, we discussed that, but we're going to discuss it more. I'm looking for people that at least one or two person who actually support Donald the president-elect, so we can have a fair conversation. Another thing we didn't touch on this thing on the ombudsman is the enforcement, right?
Yes.
Because it's the executive that's supposed to enforce these things. I don't know why the ombudsman is even. It was ombudsman. I mean, it should be enforced. Period.
Yeah.
But if we look at other ones like the asset declaration and all that were never enforced, we don't know if this one will be.
Yeah, because they were given 5 days to quit way back over 5 days ago. You know what has happened, and then we didn't get a chance to talk about it, the Capitol building standoff, but hopefully that'll be for another day.
Yeah, let Funati and other people go away. They have enough stolen money.
ECOWAS is stepping in now, so apparently,
and that's the thing. I mean, ECOWAS is stepping in because we can. I mean, anyway. I don't want to start a new show. Mr. Dugley, you're closing.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all my fellow panelists. It was a really good debate tonight. Dennis, these things are, part of what we need to be doing. I just hope somebody somewhere is going to listen or is going to pick up on some of the things that we've said here. Because I think those people that were appointed, despite some of the reservations we've got, I hope they will live up to the expectations, regardless. And I'm still firmly with the notion that we should help to strengthen our local institutions and not depend entirely on these bilateral scholarships that comes with a hefty price.
Thank you, Jimmy.
We touched on a few interesting things. One of them being that we want to accept aid and assistance, but we have to make sure that we're doing it in our own interest. Nothing is free, okay? And even if somebody's giving you something, you have to examine what they're giving you to make sure is better tailored for your interest than theirs. They will lend you money and you regret later on. Also, the thing about the ethical difference of somebody being part of a party, especially in parliamentary systems, like in the British parliamentary system, a lot of times the leader of the party is also the prime minister. So it all depends where you draw the line. And if we believe that it will be a conflict of interest, then we need to separate that. But if it can be done without without compromising your ethics. And lastly, I think we talked about what was the first topic?
The ambassadors.
The ambassadors. We need to set a policy, a foreign policy that people adhere to. There's no need of just appointing people in jobs. I think a lot of times we're putting the cart before the horse. I think I would have liked to see when I saw the recall of all the ambassadors at large. I thought they were ready to reorientate them to a new policy, a new ethic, but I'm not seeing enough of that. And I like the idea that you're bringing in veterans and this, but you still need to have a blueprint of which they should need to follow. They need instruction. And mind you, a lot of previous knowledge and expertise and skills have been lost. So we have to. For instance, this thing that happened in Nigeria would have never happened before. It would have been completely critically examined. Okay, so there's a lot of things we have to rebuild, and to rebuild, you need to set the foundation and rebuild. We're excellent people if you give us a chance, but we have to plant the foundation so that we can build on it for tomorrow.
Thank you. You know, on Facebook, sometimes you see your picture. They say, "Be careful what you send to the people in the interior," because if you send them, you know, this winter jacket or something, they're gonna wear it, right?
Go away. Yeah.
So sometimes Labrador appears like that. I mean, you give us a job, you know, maybe how to turn snow into. Then we go do a study, even though we have no snow in Liberia. So it's like everything, as long as somebody is giving it to us, we will take
Yeah.
it. If they say,
We'll
oh,
wear
we have
winter coat.
scholarship to study, you know, how to uh, uh, do this to cotton, uh, something outside Liberia, or you know, how to refine apple.
Yeah.
We send students because all we want here is just get out of Liberia. I remember we're in Nigeria, those guys used to say, I just want to be somewhere where I can get 3 square meals a day. Nothing else
Swear
matters.
about it. Yeah, we know that. There were those days if you could eat one meal, you happy.
Yeah, that's all I want. So no matter what the scholarship, am I supposed to study? As long as I'm leaving Liberia, let me go. So, Sharif, you're closing, sir.
Yeah, so that is to add my voice to uh, this great group. It's a good show. You know, we started talking about foreign policy, Liberian foreign policy with regards to these appointments. And somewhere there, I mentioned, you know, Tubman's appointment. And I misspoke. It wasn't Barkley, it was Charles D.B. King, who was a mentor to President Tubman. Charles D.B. King was appointed Liberian ambassador to the United States, where he served from 45 to 52, despite all the, you know, horrible things that Charles D.B. King did. So again, I go back to, it'll be interesting to see people that President Boakai is appointing now. You know, some of them did not, you know, some of them that are not in his political party, that did not support him during the election. Is this a time that he's reaching out now to more to the opposition that didn't support him? So, you know, that's another analysis. Something that J. Victor touched on with the election that, you know, we just went through. I still have the trauma of the last 2 days, 3 days. I have not yet recovered, unlike compatriots that you're talking about. You know, my compatriots are very interesting people. So if they are going to be excited for this moment, then something is wrong. Something is wrong with those people who are thinking that way. You know, this is a man who called your whole continent as whole. You are from as whole countries, and you're excited about this. It's a lack of understanding and appreciation for our historical tragedy, of which Mr. Donald Trump is an offspring of our historical tragedy as a Black people. And so these people that are rejoicing now, these Africans, they have no idea. That's a good brother. I'm not going to call his name tonight. A good comrade that I knew from the University of Liberia, who said he was conflicted and didn't know who to vote for on the eve of election. These are guys that, you know, pass around as militants during those days, and they walk around, you know, in
We'll have a special topic on that. Because I myself, I speak to people and I try to see what is really happening. So I want to be as fair as possible to give them the chance to really explain what's going on here.
And I would like to be on Dennis, because, you know, and I'm jotting down some things. I have never come to grips with, you know, people like that who made the decision that they made. I, as a student of history, I understand our historical tragedy, the millions of Africans who were taking millions, tens of millions of Africans who were transported over here as slaves in other parts in the New World, and those who die at sea. So I don't know. I have Dennis. I have not yet recovered, and maybe give me a week. Give me a week. I try to come on here tonight. That's why
PTSD.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at that. Thank you, gentlemen, for the night. I want to thank our viewers for watching. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things. Until then, we're going to close with our song that says, whether you voted for Trump or Kamala in this election, we are all Liberians. Whether you think the Ombudsman is right or wrong, or whether people should be double dipping, we are all Liberians. What we think or our political persuasion should not stand in the way of doing our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Amen. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. We are